Think it should go on now. Ah, there we go. Oh, whoa. Ho, ho, ho. Hi there.
Hello.
I am so sorry for this. Just a cacophony of confusion here on my part. Sorry.
It's all good. We're just happy you could be here with us and, take witness of some of our doodles as we're going through. And we started on the character creation while we were waiting. And so everybody's just kind of thinking of like what kind of character they want to go through with the biography.
Oh,
And
good.
then we got into like a little bit of a statement of whether this is like flowy or like Alice in Wonderland. And no, it's not an evil flower, I promise.
Well, I mean, I don't sort of, I guess the word would be, I don't condemn the imagination in particular directions. I don't push it in particular directions. So for instance, this is for everybody now. There was one time I was brought in to teach a class in a school. It was fifth graders, and they had been working on a project with their teacher, and the teacher had been teaching them a bit of history, actual American and European history, and then asked the students to interpret their vision of this. And they started drawing things like purple cows and aliens and things like that. Again, supposedly thinking about history. And the teacher was very frustrated by this. And I said, well, did you ask them why they were thinking of cows and aliens as part of this historical reference? She says, no, I just told them not to draw that. I said, well, why don't we ask? And in asking, the kids' imaginations had just been so spectacular and so wild and so wonderful that the teacher was like, oh, I never thought of that. And they were making references and they didn't know the word metaphor, but they had come up with something that represented something that they'd learned in the history lessons. So I try not to squash creativity. I try and say, okay, why do you see it that way? Or how do you see it that way? What does that mean to you? And see where it goes. So it's explorative.
I absolutely love that. I'm all about the exploring. I'm less about the evil though. The sassiness, I think I might be going for.
Oh, sassiness. Okay, that works.
Yeah.
That works. Well, let me not lose some of the creativity that you had. I do want to take a moment to introduce them to a couple of concepts and see how they feel about that. Just give them a little bit of background information about creating comics, and then go right back to, the characters they're working on. So, can I share my screen?
Yep, your co-host. You should
Okay,
have full
well then let's
access.
see here. This should work. Um, and again, I'm doing this on the fly because originally, there we go. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah, let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger. No, you're not going to do. Oh, good. Okay, there you go. All right. So we're going to just a little bit of background into creating comics. For instance, there are six key jobs in creating comics, and you'll see the listing here on the left. Again, I hope everybody can see this. But we have the writer, and obviously the writer's job is to come up with the story. And so literally, sometimes people think, oh, well, an artist just sits down and begins to make up the story and they're drawing it. Maybe once in a while, but predominantly, it's good to have the idea in your head, write the idea down on paper, or, if you're working on your computer, put down the different ideas, because when we have ideas, they don't always flow one scene after the next or one action after next. Sometimes we have an idea for something that the character says, and then maybe something that a character does, and we don't know quite how they fit together. So the writer's job is to come up with the idea for the story and then map the story out, which is something we call an outline. So, okay, it starts here, and then this happens, and then that happens, and then that happens. So they map it out in an outline, and then they write the story, or what we call the script. So they write a script telling the story, and in comics, we do it page by page and panel by panel, and we'll get to that in a moment. So the writer writes the story first. Then it goes to somebody we'll talk about a little bit later. But after that person looks at it, it goes to the person who illustrates the story, and that's the penciler. Now, I understand we're in a digital world, and so you can start drawing right on your computer or your tablet or whatever. But let's just break it down a little bit for now. So let's go a little old school. So the penciler's job is to draw the entire story in pencil first. First. That gives the artist, the illustrator, the penciler, an opportunity to again map out the visuals now. Yes, the script has described what's happening in each panel and on each page, but maybe there's a better way to draw that scene or a better pose for the character. And let me play with my pencil a little bit and play with some different poses or some different angles and come up with a better way to show it. So if you drew it in ink first, then you have problems or you have to scrap it and start over again. So they draw it in pencil first. So the penciler's job is to draw the entire story in pencil only. Then it gets checked by this other person, which we'll talk about later. And then it goes to the inker. And again, I know we have a digital world, but bear with me. So the inker's job is to go over the penciler's illustrations in pencil purely. Every single line that the penciler drew, the inker now goes over it in black ink. And that makes it solid, more a better contrast, more dynamic, and also for printing purposes, it's a stronger image, so it will print better, and everything is locked in now. Also, if when you draw in pencil, and I know sometimes we do that, we're drawing something in pencil and then we erase, and maybe it has some like little lines that are still left that didn't quite disappear completely. Well, when you go over the lines that you want in ink and you reproduce it, you photograph it or you scan it, the solid lines stand out and the faint lines sort of disappear. So again, it's a good job and a good idea to go over your pencil drawings in ink, and that makes it stronger, bolder images. Now, again, that work is checked. And once everybody says, oh, this is great, this is wonderful, then it goes to the letterer. And the letterer's job is to create and put into the pages the words that we read in a comic book. So when you're reading your comic books or comic strips, the balloons where people are there, what they're saying is written, those are done by somebody called a letterer. Back in the, well, when I say olden days, back in my day, back even just prior to computers being as what shall I call it, used as often. Back before that, the letterer had to do that by hand. So every single word that you would read in the comic book, somebody had sat and drew that with their hand in pencil first and then inked it later. Now you can do this with computers, so it's a little easier, but there's still artists and letterers who do everything on paper first. So you can do that too. It's easier to do it, and you can figure out some other ways to sort of get it onto the web afterwards. So let's sort of just check. We've got the writer who writes the script, the story. Then you've got the penciler who draws it in pencil only. That's the whole job. Then the inker who goes over every line that the penciler drew in ink, and then the letterer who writes all the words that we read on the comic book page. And then, if the comic book is in color, we have the colorist. And the colorist job is fairly obvious. That person sits and colors the story. If it's in black and white, sometimes you'll see some gray tones in there and some faint sort of a wash look as if it's very thin shading. That might be done by a colorist, but that colorist is only working in gray. But predominantly the comic books you read that are in color, that's a separate job, and the colorist is the person who's called in to do that. Now, I said there were six jobs. We have the writer, penciler, inker, colorist, and letterer. You have those five. The sixth job is one of the toughest jobs, and that's the editor. And you see that at the bottom of the list. The editor's job is to go over everybody's work, each stage at a time. The editor goes over the script to make sure the story makes sense, that it doesn't have any holes in it, that the characters are doing what these characters should be doing. If someone's writing Superman, their first Superman story, and Superman's been around for years, and this person writes Superman doing things that this character would not do, it's the editor's job to go, whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, clever idea, but that's not what Superman would do. Fix that. So the editor looks for anything in the story that doesn't work, misspellings, maybe some design problems, things like that. And the editor has to make sure that everybody delivers their work on time because everybody has a schedule. He looks over the artwork, same thing, looks for mistakes, maybe thinks that something could be drawn a little better, sort of corrections, that sort of thing. Looks at the letterer's work, looks at the colorist's work. Everyone has to check in with the editor before it moves on to the next person. So those are the six key jobs to drawing comic books or graphic novels. And as you get to work on your material, you could do two or three of those jobs yourself. You could certainly be the writer, you can certainly be the penciler, you can certainly be the inker. Maybe you want to be the letterer, or certainly you want to be the colorist. You can do that. The one job that you should get somebody else to do is the editor. You should always have your work checked by somebody before you move on to the next stage. And I'll give you an example, and then we'll move on. Sometimes a person writes a story. I mean, because writers, we have it all in our heads. It's all really cool stuff, and we can see it, and it's great. And we write the story, and then we have somebody drawing it, and then someone will say, "Well, wait a minute. In this scene, you have the character doing this, but in the next scene, the character is saying such and such and doing something else. It's kind of weird. How did that happen? How did this go from this to this?" And we might go, well, it's obvious because the character is such and such, or the character did this, this, and this. And then we realize we never showed the character doing that. We never had the character say anything that would help a stranger, meaning the reader, understand. So sometimes the editor's job is to find those little dropouts, those little holes or gaps in the story, and say, ooh, you know what? From panel one to panel two, it's too big a leap. Your audience won't be able to follow. So maybe you should add this or add that or correct this or correct that. Now, before I go any further, I just want to make sure, is everybody getting this? Is this making sense to people? Can you tell, Melissa? Oh, I got a thumbs up from Piper. Thank you, Piper. Anybody else? We can do a hand gesture thing. Just does it make sense? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, and you guys can go
Makes
ahead and
sense
add
to
any.
me. Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Good.
Okay, it makes sense to you. How about Ezra? Ezra, is it okay? Isabel, I see your thumbs up. Thank you.
I I was the one.
Okay, okay, great. All right. So I won't go through every other thing because I know you want to get back to the drawing, but I'll leave this sheet for you. I believe Melissa has a copy of it already, but you'll see the terminologies panel. These are some of the words that we use when we talk about creating comics or as we're working on comics. So the boxes that the illustrations are in are called panels. The little rectangle shapes that the narration goes into, like Once Upon a Time or Meanwhile Back at the Daily Planet, those are called caption boxes. The shapes where what the character is saying, those shapes are called speech balloons. And when a character is thinking, it looks like there's a cloud over their head and little bubbles. Those are called thought bubbles. Now, you may find somebody who's going to mix that up or who's going to call all of that speech balloons. Not quite accurate. Speech is literally the character is saying something. When the character is thinking, then there's thought bubbles. And sometimes they look like smoke signals or clouds, but that's what they are. They're thought bubbles. Monsters, aliens, superheroes, human beings, animals, they're all considered characters. So when I say to you, you can create your own original character, I'm not saying it has to be a dog or a man or a woman or a bird. I'm saying a character. And just out of curiosity, somebody tell me, you can say it out loud or however you want to do this, but What can a character be in a story? If you think about some of the stories you've read or the movies you've seen, what can characters be in a story?
They could fill certain roles like mentors or have like alignments that help move the story forward.
Right. But what can the character actually be? What can they physically be?
Anything.
Excuse me?
Anything.
Anything like, for instance.
Give an example. Give an example of the character you're drawing.
She figures out how to get into a higher dimension than the one she's in.
Okay, that's an action, that's a motive. What is she? You just said she. What is she?
Human.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. So a character can be a human being. What else can a character be?
Animal.
Right? Another.
Flower.
Alien.
Alien. Yeah.
Alien. Yeah. And I heard somebody say flower.
Flower.
Right. How can a character be a flower? What would you have to do?
Be able to express.
Alice in Wonderland.
Be able to express by doing what?
Actions. Be able to
Right.
express emotions. Be able
And in
to
order for that to
communicate.
happen in a film or in a comic book, you would then have to give that object or that plant what?
Emotions.
Thumpa, 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 thumpa.
Life.
There you go. Yep, yep, absolutely. Anything you bring to life, a tree, a pencil, a chair, a candelabra, the moment you give it life and motion, it's a character. If it just sits and if it's a chair and somebody sits in the chair and the chair does nothing but just be, then it's furniture, it's a prop. But if the chair starts talking and walking and moving, it's a character. So when I say you can create your own original characters, there's so many different possibilities to choose from. And also in the same sheet, I have create plots, outlines, scripts. These are breakdowns of the steps of creating a story. So some people think, well, when I have an idea, I have to immediately write the script. No, you have an idea. What's the idea? You write the idea out first. Then, okay, so now I've got a plot for a story, but have you worked out all the details yet? No, of course not. So maybe you write an outline. Okay, it's going to start here, and then this is going to happen, and then this might happen, and then it's going to end here. Okay, so I have an idea now of how my story is structured, where I'm going to go once I start it, how I think I want it to end. That's an outline. So before you start writing, really getting into it, you can outline your story. And then, of course, you write your script. And I will tell you once again, your first time you write the script, you're still telling the story to yourself. I've written Batman, Tarzan, Sherlock Holmes, Scooby Doo, oh my goodness, Black Panther, Captain America. I've written all these characters. And every single time I've sat down and started typing away, even though I have it in my head, writing it is physically getting it out of my head and onto a surface so I can look at it and go, oh, okay, so that's what it looks like from beginning to end. Well, I don't like this. I want to move this here, or I don't need that, or he really should say such and such. Then I begin to play with it and make it better. So it does not have to be perfect the moment you think of it. As a matter of fact, perfect's a problem word. It should be the best you can make it. And that's not the first time you write it. It's after you've written it down and you've played with it and you've read it again and you've played with it some more. Then you make it better and better and better. For instance, have you ever worked with clay or Play-Doh or anything like that, right? Okay, there you go. So when you start with that lump, whatever that shape is initially, that's not the finished piece. You start to mold it and pull things apart and add things to it, and you keep kneading it and you keep playing with it until it becomes a piece of art that you want. Writing a story is the same thing, the exact same thing, same process. So the moment you grab it, no, it's not finished. You get to play with it. And I like to use the word play Because when you use the word work a lot, people think, oh, it's got to be hard and I got to do this. No, I get to mess with it. I get to do, oh, I get to make this character do that, and I get to have them say this. You get to play like you're in control. Have fun with it, because it's much easier to tell stories when you're having a good time with it. Okay. Let me stop sharing this, and I want to share what looks like when you have designed a character, because I think that's where you said you folks were. You had been designing your characters.
Yeah, we're just doodling and going through the character biography.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Character bios are good. So you had some exposure to that. This is another thing that's a part of and I'm gonna share this. Um, when we are, actually, why don't I set up both of them? Hang on a second. I'm gonna set up both so I can just go from one to the other. No, I can't do that. Okay, fine. I'll take it a beat at a time here. So when we are designing our characters, we want to be able to have them have more than one expression. You don't want a character that's always angry or always, has a goofy face or is always smiling, unless it's like Teletubbies. And then, everything. No, but that's not it. When you're telling a story, you want your characters to have more of an emotional range. If they're excited, you want them to have big eyes and maybe their mouth is open, and that kind of thing. Or if they're angry, you want them to scowl like that. Or if they're sad, you want to frown. So you want to create a look for each of the emotions that you might need to use in your story. So it's good to create a sheet like this. Let's see if I can make this a little smaller so you can see the whole thing. There you go. All right. So this is a range of faces, and you'll notice it's pretty much the same character, but he is expressing different feelings. So a lot of artists will do a page like this with a character, and I'll show you another one in a moment, and they'll put them in different positions, and they'll also try giving them different expressions. You don't have to do as many as these, depends on what your character's like. But it's always a good idea to do at least 3 or 4 of these so that your character has some range and you practice drawing your character more than once and with more than one expression, right? It gives you more to play with. There's that word again, with your stories. Your character doesn't always have to be one set expression. You can give it another one and another one, and it gives you some idea of how to do that. So this is a sheet that's fun to do. And like I said, you don't have to do as many as these, but to have like maybe one where they're scared, maybe one where they're well, he must be happy here somewhere. Well, he's kind of okay here. He's a little worried here, embarrassed, guilt. I don't have a happy one on here. I'll have to fix that. I've got all these other ones, but I'll have to fix that. But you want to give him at least 3 or 4 expressions, or her or it, 3 or 4 expressions. Now I'll show you one more thing. We'll stop this, and then we're going to go to the drawing. Um, Hold on here. Come on now. Thank you. And let's do the Johnny Quest one. Yeah, that's a goodie. So there's a Johnny Quest, and there's also um, one from Family Guy. I'll do the Johnny Quest one first. So this is a character sheet. And again, just like with the expressions, this is done by a particular artist named Doug Wildey. When he was creating this character, he was drawing how this character should look for a number of other artists who are going to also be drawing Johnny. So you want to say, this is how Johnny looks standing still. This is how Johnny looks kneeling down, pointing, crouching, giving them an idea of how this character should look the same way, should, have the same hairstyle, same clothing, but this is what this character looks like in different positions. So again, it's a reference. If I practice drawing them in different ways, then I can do more with my story. They don't just have to be standing facing us all the time. But it's also a way of designing how your character looks. So you know what kind of clothes they wear, what is their hairstyle, what do they have on their feet. These are things that you think about. How does my character look? And maybe what does my character look like standing in two or three different positions? Maybe they're running in one, maybe they're sitting down in another, and they're standing in a third. So that's something that you can practice doing. But you start out by designing your character. Now I'll show you one more student's illustration, and then I'll show you one of mine. Okay, so can you see that now? It's a girl, right? Anna? Okay, great. You can't see that. So this was by one of the students, and you'll see oh no, actually, I'm sorry, it was she. Ivelisse, I believe was her name. But this is how she drew her character, Anna. So we know that Anna's got a very certain type of a style blouse. She's wearing blue jeans. She's not wearing sneakers, she's wearing boots. And the artist was very clear about that. And then she also, because you said that you have your characters, I'm sorry, you have your students were also working on their bios for their characters. Here's some bio information about Anna. So it's her age is 17, doesn't know where she comes from right now. And she says what she wants, dreams of becoming a model. So she's a 17-year-old girl who has dreams of becoming a model. Oh, so I know something about her now. And then it goes on to say a few more things that the artist and the writer, same person, had thought of about this character. Now, why do you think that it's good to have a bio and a visual design of your character before you start working on your story? How do you think that's useful? Anybody want to answer that one?
I guess it's how like you know them, so then you know how they would react in different situations.
Perfect. Perfect. Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't have to make it up as you're drawing. You already have an idea who this character is. Many of you, I'm sure, have either a brother or sister or a really good friend, somebody you've known for a while. You kind of know how they're gonna act in a situation. You kind of know what they like to eat. You kind of know what kind of music they like, what kind of clothing they wear. If you were going to make up a story about them, it would be easier for you because you know that stuff about them already. So it's the same thing with characters. The more you know about your character before you start really writing the story, the easier it is to write the story for exactly the reasons that you just said. You know them. You kind of know what they're going to do. You kind of know how they think. I mean, you know how they talk. And that's going to come to you. And it's just, oh, good. I got that. I got that. I got that. And it's going to work much better for you. Let me show you another reference here. Uh, so this was me playing with some character designs for some cartoons that I wanted to do. And if you look at this character here with the cap and the hoodie, you get sort of a very clear sense of his personality by what he's wearing. He's got the cap down over his eyes, so he probably thinks he's kind of cool, or at least he wants everybody else to think he's cool. But and he's got baggy pants on, so that's another identity element. What we wear says something about us. This character's got on, again, also baggy pants, but he's got on a short sleeve shirt and he's wearing shades. So another way of maybe he's saying, I'm also cool because I got on these shades. I look cool like that. Maybe, as opposed to this character here who's wearing eyeglasses. You can tell from the sketch, maybe. And he's wearing a vest and he's got a shirt with a collar. It's a different look to him. So when we are designing our characters, what they wear, or maybe how they wear their hair, what they have in their hair, like this young person has what would you call that? A band around their head, a hair band, right? And she has her hair tied into a ponytail, whereas he's wearing a cap. This person has no cap, no hat, nothing in his hair. These are different personality traits that you can use. What your character looks like is totally up to you. But again, have fun with it while you're thinking about it. What's their personality like? What would a person or character with that personality, what would they wear? What do they like to eat? Where do they like to go? What kind of music do they like? These are fun things to think of and just make a list. You don't have to be fancy about it. Just making a list fills you with more information. Let me give you one more. Uh, where is that here? Here we go. Okay, so this is from The Simpsons. And I don't know if anybody watches The Simpsons, but this is his boss, Mr. Burns. And again, this is a professional character sheet, but you see how they broke the character down into how to draw the character? And one of the things I often say when you're designing your characters, doesn't matter how well you think you can draw or how badly you think you can draw. It doesn't matter. Everybody can draw. It's just a matter of what you draw and how you want to approach it. So if you notice, if you saw a picture of Mr. Burns here, well, he's got sort of a round head here, and he's got this pointy nose and this long mouth here. But you might see this as, oh, that's his head. But over here, it's broken down into shapes. So when you're drawing, you can approach the drawing by the shapes. Does the person have a rectangular shape or an oval shape or a circular shape? Is their head big and their body small? Think of your characters in terms of their shapes first. Even his legs, these could easily be rectangles, but there's a little bit of a curve to them, right? But they're cylinders. These are his legs. Once you erase this line here in the center where the knees are, once you erase that, you have straight legs. But this indicates where he would bend if he were walking or if he were climbing stairs. Those are his knees. So again, shapes. The same thing with the arm. It's really could be two cylinders, right? So you can draw them as shapes first, and then as this artist did, you go over the lines, the outer lines, and begin to erase or remove the inner lines, the structural lines. And eventually you have your character and not a collection of shapes. So it's easier to draw things, you break things down into shapes. Any questions so far? I know I'm throwing a lot at you. No questions? We're good, or did I lose people? Just, just tell me, because I'm not seeing faces. I'm seeing names: Isabel and Piper and Ezra.
You're good. Sorry, the mute button is really close to this button that like exits me out of Zoom. So
Oh, okay, all right. But you're following me?
yeah,
Okay, all right. Okay, so let me sort of stop with the tutorials for a moment here and stop sharing for a moment. There's more stuff, but let's just do this for a moment. What kind of characters have you developed so far?
Um, I have not much done because I didn't know what I was really doing.
Okay. Well, what did you
But
think of so far?
um,
Oh, okay, that's nice. Wait a minute. I think you made me dominant here, and I would rather be able to see. Yeah, so don't let me fill the screen. I want to see everybody else is more important.
this is my
What is this? Is this from the view thing? So don't make it the speaker anymore. Make it the gallery. There we go. Okay, now Isabella, would you hold it up? Oh, good. Oh, okay. Oh, I like that. She's got the billowy sleeves. She's got the pluming sleeves there at the wrist and buttons down the. That's sort of a Victorian look.
I like fantasy and stuff like that. So
Very cool. What kind of what does she have below the waist? Is it pants or a
I
skirt
have
or
not decided the pants.
okay, okay. And then the hairstyle. How did you decide the hairstyle?
I literally just randomly started making lines and just came up with something I like.
It's fine. It's fine. Again,
After,
play. Like I
and
said,
then I wanted their hair to be a little bit messy, so I kind of just looked up messy hair, went off of that.
excellent. Research. Good. Reference and research. Two great R's to remember. A lot of artists use references. Absolutely. You can draw from life, you can draw from photographs. That's perfect. That's a perfect design. So, can you tell me one thing about this character, something that you know about them?
I haven't gotten to that part. I've literally just been drawing them because I didn't know what to do.
Okay, so let me then try it this way. How old do you think your character is?
Well, I know that I wanted them to be able to like, this is hard to explain. Give me a
Try
sec.
it.
I'm gonna turn my video off real quick.
Okay.
So when I first made them, I was thinking of like this character that just ended up in this world with no memories of the past, and they just have to
Oh,
wander around and survive.
okay. Okay, that's great. That's a great adventure concept right there. And to not know anything about yourself and to be in a strange world that's unfamiliar. Those are that's absolutely great adventure stuff. So that's cool. So do you think though, as you're looking at her, do you think she's in her teens or maybe her early 20s? What do you think?
I honestly do not know.
Okay, then fine. Maybe that's part of the adventure. She eventually figures out, oh my God, I'm 37. You know,
I'm
no, but
actually
you can
80.
figure,
I just don't age that much.
there you go. She ages very slow. She's timeless. Yes, I like that. That's good. See, and again, that's why I say play. That's another reason why I say play. You can jot down any of these possibilities. You don't have to lock in on any of them. And as you explore your ideas for your story, you have no idea where it's going to take you. But oh, that could be fun. That could be cool. That could be silly. That could be really dramatic. You have all those possibilities, and that's great. That's great. How about some of the other people? Piper or Ezra, or I think those are the only ones with us right now.
Yeah, they put some in chat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm not seeing the chat, so let me.
Yeah, just a note. The second one's name is just the sound of static. I cannot convey that with picture though. So
Oh, oh, nice.
it's Temmie and that's
That was beautiful. That is
I love that. That's great. Do you know? Have you ever watched Star Trek?
I have not.
Okay. The only reason I mention that is this. Star Trek started back in 1963, I think it was, and one of the characters or the alien characters on the show were called Klingons, right? And they looked, again, it was the 1960s, so the makeup job wasn't that crazy. They looked like human beings, but they had darker skin and funky hair. But over the years, as the makeup and special effects became much more fantastic, they actually began to develop a language called Klingonese
Hmm.
for the actors to portray in the stories. And to go even crazier, fans began to actually copy down what those sayings were that were used in certain episodes. And someone began to put together a book of the Klingonese language.
No way.
Yes, so now there are actually places where you could learn Klingonese, and all from the fantastic aspect of a series, a TV series, a fantasy sci-fi series that started in the 1960s. So you're
Cool.
coming up with that sound? Hey, that could be the beginning of something. You never know. You never know. Melissa, there's also a middle grade book, and I'm not sure if I'm remembering it right, but it's about a boy who comes up with a new word. I think it's fringle. Okay, the quick story is this boy is in school. He's a bit of a class clown, and he begins calling a pen a fringle. And his teacher and everybody's giving him a hard time about that. It's not a real word. It's not a real word. And he keeps coming up with ways to say, oh no, it could be, and it could be, other words are made up, and by the end of the book, spoiler alert, by the end of the book, the word actually winds up in the dictionary. So once again, you never know where you're going with that. So keep at it. Keep thinking like that. That's great. By the way, who was that who I was talking to a moment ago?
Ezra.
Ezra. Great work, Ezra. How about Piper? I'm looking for, oh, I don't have any questions, right? I see that, but is this? No, that's Ezra's drawing too. Piper, I'll put mine in a few minutes. Okay, fine. Okay. No, and you don't have to be done. It's not about being finished. It's just about sharing as we go. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
mine's definitely not done.
so let me do this while you're thinking about. I'm going to review one more thing. So one is if you're working digitally, obviously, you can do all kinds of things on your computer or your tablet, and you can remove and you can layer it, and all that's fun and fantastic. If you're working hard copy with pen and paper, then I will really strongly suggest that you do your preliminary drawings in pencil, and the moment that you get a good design of your character in pencil, do not ink that design. I think, Melissa, I gave you a list of supplies. If, I'm speaking to the students now, if you can get your hands on some tracing paper, take a couple of pieces, just tiny pieces of masking tape. You're going to tape the tracing paper over your pencil drawing, and then using a Sharpie, a very fine point Sharpie, ink on the tracing paper you're drawing. Right, right. The idea is this. After you finally got a design you like with pencil, and you start inking the pencil drawing and you make a mistake or you want to change something, well, it's too late. You've already inked the drawing. So you can't change anything. And if you make a mistake, oh, now I got to start over again. But if you do it on the tracing paper, and you make a mistake or you want to make a change, you can just take the tracing paper, toss it, because your original pencil drawing is still pristine, clean, right? And you can always use that in other ways, or you can always have it as a reference. So it's always good to do your inking on the tracing paper first, and then once you finish inking that, you make a photocopy of the tracing paper drawing, which is now black ink, and then you can color on the photocopy. So don't color on the tracing paper because it never works well. It's not the right paper for coloring. So you would wind up with your pencil drawing, your ink drawing, and then a separate color version of your characters, right? That's if you're not doing this on computer or if you're not doing it on a tablet. If you're doing it on hard copy, then work paper, tracing paper, copy. And that way everything stays clean and you can use it again and again and again. So that's one. So now the next thing that I'm going to do, and how much more time do I have? Oh, okay. So the next thing I want to show you is, let's say that oh no, that's not what I want to do. I want to get here first. Let's say that you've had a wonderful time creating a character, and now you want to do a story. Now, this may look like a comic book page, but it's not. These are a collection of comic strips about the same character that a student drew, right? So he starts with his story with a submersible. It's not quite a submarine, it's a submersible. Goes underwater and starts to have this adventure. It goes into a dark place and creatures come out, and there's not aliens, but there's underwater creatures. There's a problem, there's an explosion, which you can't quite see very well there. But each panel moves the story along. And this is, again, his pencil drawings. See, he even did his speech balloon here.
Question.
Yes.
Are we supposed to be seeing what you're describing, or are you
Yes,
just...
and you're not seeing it, so that's my bad. Sorry about that. Thank you for mentioning that because I was just rattling on there. Let's try that again. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, bully. Okay. So everything that I said plus. Okay. These are comic strips. So literally this means that the artist worked on 1, 2, 3, 4 panels first. got that much of the story done. Then he went and worked on the second set of 4 panels. Then he worked on the third set and then the fourth set. This is the kind of thing you would see in a newspaper. You might see like, oh, I don't know, my goodness, why am I having going brain dead here now? Comic strips or things. You'll see certain like Calvin and Hobbes or some of the other, where it's just 3 or 4 panels straight across, and it's a joke or it's a continuing story. You have to wait until the next day to see what happens next. But these are done in 4 panels going left to, or 3 or 4 panels going left to right. And it makes it easier to break down your story into comic strips and only 4 panels at a time rather than trying to draw a whole comic book and not being quite clear on how to do that yet because you haven't done, a lot of comics. So it's good practice to do comic strips first. It teaches you how to tell a story in what I call snapshots. Now, I'm sure everybody's seen movies, you've watched television, you watch a movie or you watch a television show go by, and people are doing their thing, and it begins and it goes along, and then eventually it ends. Nice, smooth, flowing story. But if you only have a few panels to tell your story in, then what you have to think about is what snapshot of each moment do I have to take that would help tell the story? So in this case, we don't see this submersible, you know, come onto the water, then go under the water and all that. No, we see it already under the water. We see the bubbles. The character is saying something inside of it. Then we don't see it floating along for like 3 or 4 panels before something happens. We see something happening in the very next panel. And then something else happens in the next panel. And then something else happens. So it's telling us these are the most important moments I have to show you in this story. And it should be enough information for you to figure out what's going on. Does that make sense? Okay. So when you let me just use was it Ezra? Ezra, your character, the girl who wakes up in this strange new world.
That
Wait,
was my
that's-
character.
Wait, that's
I'm sorry. Is that Isabel's character?
Yes.
My bad. Oh, I'm so ashamed. Okay. Okay. Isabel. Yeah, I knew it all the time. Isabel, your character. You might show us, you have different ways you could start your story, but let's pretend for a moment that we wake up. The first panel we see is this character's face, and they appear to be asleep. And it's very close, tight shot on their face. And then the next panel, the eyes are open. And then the third panel, she's sitting up. And she's still kind of sleepy and everything. So it could be, oh, she's just waking up from, maybe before she goes to school or goes to work or whatever. We don't know yet. And in the fourth panel, we've pulled back and we see that she's in, and I'm just making this up now, Isabel. So, it's not your story, it's just me making this up. She's surrounded by these strange creatures, and they don't look friendly. And she's freaked. See? So the first panel, oh, somebody's waking up. Second panel, yeah, their eyes are open here now. Yeah, okay. I wonder where they're going to go. And the third one, yeah, they're stretching her. And then suddenly we see they're in danger. Now well, what happens next? We have to find out by going to the next strip. And then the next strip would show what would happen. Maybe the creatures aren't really dangerous, or maybe they're licking their lips and going, ooh, lunch. That's for you to decide. But each panel moves the story along a bit further. When you get to the point of where you're writing your story, you would write it, and I believe I sent some guidance on that. Panel one, what would happen in panel one? Panel two, what would happen in that? Three, four, very simple. So it'd be what we would see would be the action. And then you would write if the character's saying anything would be their speech balloon, or if they're thinking, the thought bubbles per panel. And if there's narration, it would be inside the caption box. You know, when again, we don't have her name, but when Diana woke up that morning, everything seemed perfectly normal. So when Diana woke up that morning, panel one, panel two, everything seemed perfectly normal. Panel three, she was expecting that she would get up and have breakfast and then go to school. Panel four, but that ain't happening. Would be in the narration in panel four. So that would be the thing. It's just moving us along. And that's how you can tell your stories in comic strips. Now, again, I'm going to show you something else. Come on here. Um, do, 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 do. Where is my sample? Uh, okay, I'm not seeing. Oh, here we go. So this is a four-panel strip that's, fairly easy to lay out. You can also be three panels. But I think for the sake of practice, you might, and again, I've made this available to Melissa. You can print these out and then just sort of in pencil, lightly sketch in what you think might happen in each one of these panels to move your story along. So I made that available. I actually am looking for,
I sent it to everyone's email address and I'll share it out with the recording.
oh, good, good. This is a guide here. What I'm looking for is, I had a sample. This is the character bio that they were looking at, right? Melissa, can you see that or no?
No, you're
No.
not sharing.
Oh, once again, that happened. Why is that? Was
Yeah,
working so well before. Okay,
I know. You have to stop it and then restart it, stop, restart it. It
there we
can
go.
be a pain.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
there we go. That's what we were looking at. Yeah.
right. That's the character bio, right? But I also, so here's examples of the comic strip, right? So this is Calvin and Hobbes. So this is three panels here, and you see the setup. He's talking about getting ready. Basically, they're talking about getting ready to go down the slide and pillow protection and everything. And eventually, Hobbs realizes, wait a minute, this might be kind of dangerous, and he steps off, and good old Calvin's on his way. So that's your setup, right? The remark that this is the intro, this is your setup, and then this is your punchline if you're doing a joke, and it's three panels or four panels, but the punchline is always the last panel. The way I described it for Isabel, the punchline in her would be a cliffhanger. Oh my goodness, our hero is in danger. What's going to happen? That's a cliffhanger. So that makes the person reading it want to know what's happening next. And they would have to, if you're doing a comic book, they would turn the page. Or if it's a comic strip, they have to wait until the next day to get the next strip. This is a character of mine. We see his house, and that's a figure standing in front. Let me make this a little bit larger here. So we see the front of his house, and there's a figure standing in the doorway. Then we cut to a shot of we're now in the house, looking at our lead character. Here's the figure who's standing in the doorway. So they're talking, and just as they're starting to talk, these thugs come running in. They push the person in the doorway aside, and you cannot quite see it, but this gentleman here has a knife in his hand, so you know that there's going to be a fight. But again, this is a comic strip, so now we have to wait to see what happens next in the next strip. So that's a good way of learning how to use panels to tell your story using comic strips before you start to do a comic book. Any questions at this point? I can't hear you, Melissa.
Oh, I was just asking Sadie if she had any questions, and she's like, nope.
Okay, Sadie, help me out here because there's a couple of different directions that I can go in. As we're again, I don't know how much time we have, but there's a couple of different directions I can go, and I want to be of service to the group. So, what do you feel at this point would be useful to the group or to you?
Uh, Piper just posted their character.
Oh, good. Well, let me stop sharing so we can check that out. Da, 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 da. Ah, here we go. Oh, cool. There's definitely an anime feel going down here. Okay. And is that a some sort of a battle axe on the back of the character? Is that a yes? Ah, yes, battle axe. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And I see that we have a name. Oh, this character is 19. She is female, hair color, brown chestnut hair, red eyes. Ooh, not getting enough sleep. Okay. Personality, she's bossy, brave, and adventurous. Ethnicity, she's British, from the British Isles, from the UK. Okay, cool. Goals: explore far lands, strengthen up practice and training. Likes, dislikes, copycats. I can get with that. Likes gems. Are these power gems or just jewelry? And the name is Mars, I think. Okay. And the name is Mars, yeah. Okay. And I was asking about the gems. Is it power gem? Shiny stuff, just shiny stuff. So these gems have no special powers. It's just she likes shiny stuff. Okay. And friends, Alex. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, not me. Okay, fine. And Willow. Can you tell me, in a couple of words, who or what is Willow? Is Willow a person or a creature or an animal? What is Willow? Alex and Willie are both childhood friends. Aha, cool. Willow is a person. Cool. Same age? They're like all around 19? Yes. Cool. Very cool. And oh, I have another question. You said likes adventure and wants to explore. Wait a minute, let me go back to goals. Yeah, strengthen, practice, train. Yeah. Um, with a big battle axe like that, do they explore England or do they explore other worlds? I just want to see, if you're thinking fantasy or reality for these stories. Oh, this is gonna be a good one. Okay. I was thinking more fantasy. Yes. Okay, cool. Yes, because walking around London with a big battle axe on your back might be a little conspicuous. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Thank you. Thank you. So again, my question here, oh, probably a little, yeah, intimidating too. Very much so. I think the Bobbies would want to talk to her. So my question then also is to Piper or whomever, what would you like me to do next, or what can I do next that you find would be more useful to you? We've talked about creating characters. We've talked about how to draw them, at least in terms of, penciling to ink and coloring and all of that. We talked about how to create a comic strip.
Is there anything that you would like to ask
Probably,
Alex?
oh, layout of a comic. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Let's keep it simple. We'll go from comic strip to laying out a 4 to 8 page comic book. Okay. So again, we're talking panels, right? And that sheet that you'll get has the terminologies that we use. So panels are the shapes in which the illustrations sit. Sometimes panels are boxes, sometimes panels are circles, sometimes panels don't even have borders. And I know if you've read enough comics or graphic novels, manga or Western, you'll know what I mean by that. You can have a little bit of artistic freedom with how you set up your panels. But the average basic, very basic panels of a comic book page are either square or rectangular shaped. The most in American format is usually about 5 panels to a page. All right. You can also do 3 long, one, after the other. So if you're going to have like sort of almost like wide angle shots, you want to show a lot of people or you want to show an establishing shot of a country scene or a battle or somebody's messy room or whatever, you might want to do a long panel like that. So you could have 3 long panels on a page. You could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels. You could have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a thin long panel. The shape of the panel you can decide based on what you need to show in that panel. So a lot of your characters, if you have like 2 characters talking, you don't need a lot of room for that. So you could do like, basic square panels. But if you have 6 or 7 characters in a scene, then you might want to give them more room. So I would say starting out with try to keep it to 4 to 5 panels on a page max. And if you have a big scene that you want to do, a big rock concert or big monster or a big fantastic world that your character's suddenly awakening in, maybe you want to do a large panel that takes up 2/3 of the page, and then a couple of small panels for close-ups of your character's reaction. You can think of panels the same way you might think about photography or filming. If you're watching a movie and they're going to introduce you to the city, well, you get a wide shot of the city. New York or London or Paris, and it's a wonderful city. It's fantastic by day or by night or whatever. Well, you're going to show as much of that city as you can. It's a great shot of the city. But once we go to meet the characters, well, then we go in closer. So a big shot of the city, but then a close shot or 2 shot of the characters that we're meeting. So you can think of it like that. How do I work my camera? What do I need to show in each panel? How much room do I need? It's easier if we're in a room and I'm showing you by drawing, which maybe I'll get some video put together and I'll send that to Melissa for you to use. But again, laying out your story, if you're going to do, let's say, a 4-page story, so you have a beginning, a middle, and an end to your story. Where does it start? What do we need to see? That's first and foremost. Then what happens? Okay, how much space do I need to show that? So if we're gonna, again, I'm gonna use Isabella's example. The character wakes up, it's in this strange world, and again, I know Isabella, this is not your story, I'm just using your character. The character wakes up, suddenly realizes this is a strange new world. All right. So you could start with a couple of small panels and then a big panel on the bottom. So 1, 2, panel 1, panel 2, her face with her eyes closed, sleeping, her face with the eyes opening, and then boom, below that would be a big panel. It takes up the rest of the page, and she's sitting on a hill, and there's this fantastic creatures, this fantastic world all around her, and she's freaked out. Okay. Like you see things radiating off her hair, like her hair standing up or whatever, right? And she's freaked out, right? Then you turn the page, because that was page 1. You turn the page because I got to find, well, what happened? And then you begin to tell us what's happened on page 2 and page 3. Now, understanding if it's only 4 pages, then page 4 is going to end the story or end this chapter of the story. So if you're doing a 4-page comic book, which is, kind of cool, it's like taking an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and folding it in half, then page 1, 2, 1 is the cover, right? Or 1 is the top page. Open it up, page 2, page 3, then on the back is page 4, and it could be, again, she's awakened, strange new world, she starts wandering, stuff starts to happen, and she thinks, okay, I'm going to find a safe place to be. She runs into a cave, and in the cave is a huge dragon, right? And that was, oh, that's a cliffhanger, to be continued. So you can do it that way if you're going to do some sort of exciting story. If you're going to do a joke, same thing. Where does it start? What happens? How does it end? That's your 4 pages. Where does it start? Page 1. What happens? Page 2 and 3. How does it end? Page 4. Keep it simple to start because I know a lot of times we get frustrated, right? I haven't been drawing a lot. I need practice with that. This is not turning out the way I wanted it to. Oh, I'm not going to finish it. And that's very frustrating when you start things and you don't finish them, then you don't grow. You don't grow as well as you can, as well as you could. Any of the artists that you might like right now, any of the artists whose work you enjoy, their single illustrations or the books, the comics and the graphic novels that they do, they all started where you are. Every single one of them. The first times they started drawing was not brilliant, was not wonderful, was not professional. But the more they did it, the better they got. And it's the same thing for anything that we do. The more we do it, the better we become at it. So starting small, starting by doing comic strips, gives you practice how to tell stories using panels. If you want to do a comic book, do a short one, 4, 8 pages max, because it's an easy way to start and finish it. And you can look at it and go, oh, wow, I completed that. Wow. And if I don't want to do the whole story, okay, then page 4 is a cliffhanger. It ends with what's going to happen next. And then if I want to, I can draw the next story. Maybe not. Maybe I won't. Maybe I will. But you have some choices and you're getting practice. The other thing I would suggest strongly is that if you're going to do a comic, write the story first, work out your panels in your script first, do what we call thumbnail sketches. Sadie, right? Did I get that right? Is it Sadie? Yeah, Sadie, do you know what thumbnail sketches are?
Um, like like the title.
No, no, it's an action. It's an actual action. Thumbnail sketches are, I really wish I was working in front of something here. Okay, you know what? You see the design that Piper did of her character? She could do a bunch of little drawings similar to that, working out her story, and they would be considered thumbnail sketches. They're very, very simple, not a lot of detail, hasn't no finished art at all. I'm just basically using a rough sketch of my character and maybe some background to map out my story visually. That's a thumbnail sketch. You don't worry about the details. You don't worry about how clean the lines are. Doesn't matter. It's almost like doodling, but doodling with a purpose. So write the script so you know the story, then do thumbnail sketches so that you can figure out what you want to do with your panels before you put in all that time and effort drawing the panels. You can make changes and all that kind of stuff in the thumbnail sketches. It's like planning ahead. And I strongly suggest again that you do 4 to 8 pages max, and I would even say start out with 4. You can do cliffhangers. You don't have to try and do the whole story in 4 pages, but just for the practice of doing it, just for the fun of doing it. Now, how many people here work on with a digital tool as opposed to like what Isabella and Piper are doing, where they're actually drawing it? Anybody that's working digitally?
I am. I'm on my third. Yeah, I am. I usually do draw with traditional, but I left my
Mm-hmm.
in the car and since but I do like drawing with
Yeah,
like
it's fine. Everything that I'm saying still applies in terms of building your story, working out your story, and all that. The same things applies. The difference with the digital is that you don't have to worry about, well, if I ink this, quote unquote, in digital, if I make the lines darker, then if I make a mistake, I can't undo it because you can, you know. And depending on what software you're using, you can actually do layers. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm using Procreate, so
yeah, so you can do layers. So you don't have the same challenge in that respect. But you can also still save yourself time by working on in thumbnail sketches when you start to design your pages, your comic book visuals. Roughing it out very loosely to begin with allows you freedom to set up the best shots, best angles, whatever. And then when you're ready, start doing the detail work. I would like to make a challenge. How often do you folks meet?
So for our art group, we meet every other week, but starting in January, we are going to meet once to twice a week for the art group itself, and then we get together for other projects and stuff every other week.
Well, I would like, I don't know what your holiday time is going to be like and everything, so I'll just push it into when does school start again? Oh, you're homeschooling, right? Or is all of these are homeschool? Ah, okay. Sort of changes the whole thing about school break. But okay, so what
I'm partial homeschool. I go to like 3 classes, and
mm-hmm.
2 electives, and then physics.
Oh, ooh, excuse me. Wow, physics. Okay, she's heavy duty. Okay, so here's what I'd like to do. I would like to see um, a finished illustration of each of your characters with a short bio by a specific date. And if you do that, I'll send you something. Don't know what I'll send you yet. I have
Wait,
to
what
think.
are we doing?
A character design, fully drawn, meaning, it's color and all that, and a bio, character bio, much like I showed you a little while ago. Hang on, let me go back. Oh yeah, I have to shrink this so I can find it. There we go. Now I have to do this so that you can see it. Share. There we go.
Yeah, so
okay.
what you want is this kind of example?
Yes, yes. But I see how this is finished? So it's a fully colored, it's inked and in color. I would like to see something along those lines. It doesn't have to have the bio written like this. I mean, it's fine if you can do that. I think Isabella is the one who's working on a digital.
Ezra.
Is Ezra. I will get this right once. Okay. So Ezra could possibly do it digitally, but it's not mandatory. But I would like to see something like this, a one sheet where your character design is there and your bio is there. And what would be a realistic amount of time, Melissa? Because, again, the holidays are here and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know. What do you guys think? How much time would you guys need?
I was thinking a bunch of time.
You were thinking a bunch of time.
I'm going to be going up to like an art meetup like for 15th to do art later, so I'm probably going to do it then. So like today, I'll be done
So
today. So
you want to, well,
like other people, so I don't need I'm going to be doing it today.
You're going to be doing it today?
Scusi. Okay.
Okay. Well, so let's give everybody a couple of days and maybe, so our first like art meetup is on January 6th. Maybe we can use that as a date just to give everybody time.
Fine. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ezra said yes. Isabella, Piper, are you guys still there? Did you go out to lunch? What?
And they might have stepped
I'm here. Sorry.
Good. Is January 6th enough time, Isabella?
I don't know. I don't know dates. Don't ask me.
That's okay.
Yes,
I'll
it's
remind
enough
your
time
mom.
is what my mom said, so I'm guessing it's enough time.
Oh, you live that kind of life. Okay. That's fine. Okay.
I'll
She knows
remind your
what side
mom.
her bread is buttered. Okay. And Piper, is that okay for you too? I should probably check the chat for that. I'm not sure. Okay. All right. Well, then fine. Why don't you check into that, Melissa, and then let me know.
Wait, can I send something in the chat? Like I drew like a very rough comic sketch, like comic
Sure. Yeah.
thing. I have to take a screenshot, but I'll send it in chat.
Okay. That works.
Ignore the weird little reference images in the corner of it.
And I love seeing what you are all doing. I just love it.
All right. So, if that's it for today, and whatever. Oh, here's Piper's now. Oh, okay. Here. Oh, fun, fun. I'm not too thrilled about the creature that's coming through the door. That doesn't look very
They're
friendly.
friends. It's is the embodiment of bloodlust, basically,
Yeah.
in Tammy's, but because they're descended from like a horrible. It's I have a ton of lore in my head and I have to write it down, but they're friends. It's
Oh,
kind
they
of like
are.
a
Okay, good.
venom,
Because
and
at
it's kind
first
of
I thought it was a threatening scenario, but especially the expression on your character's face, like the eyes are huge, right?
I mean
But
that's
okay,
yeah.
okay. So yeah, this is fun. This is fun. I also like the gray effect that you've done here.
Thank you. Yeah, I just realized I forgot to draw. I'm not saying the static noise again. Their arm, so they're just kind of a hand floating up there right now. Yeah.
That's all right. Again, remember what I was saying about thumbnail sketching? This rough sketching, all of that's valid. And again, even the pros do all kinds of rough sketches before they get anywhere near the finished product. You have to. It makes sense to map things out, saves you time. Because if you put in all that effort immediately and then there's something you don't like, you got to start all over again. Okay.
Mm.
All right. So thank you, Piper. No, Ezra. Sorry about that. Thank you, Ezra. Yeah, I got it. See, I was quick. I caught it that time. Sadie, anything you want to say?
Aw. That's what you get from her. No, she actually is okay. Can I show?
Mhm.
Yeah. So this is what Sadie had started
Oh,
with.
that's what you were holding up a moment ago. Yes.
Yeah. And
Cool.
then it was like the wheel started spinning, and yeah, and then before we know it, something else is coming forward.
There you
So
go.
we've got some beginning sketches happening.
There you go.
Yeah, so we got the
That's the
brainstorming
process.
going.
That's the process.
Yeah,
Okay. So then by the 6th, we should have some really good stuff. Okay. I will check in with you early next week to see what the 6th looks like, and then we'll lock in a time. Okay. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for your time. Again, sorry that I was late. It's what happens when I leave my keys where they shouldn't. I leave my keys where they shouldn't be when I need them. All right. I hope you found this useful. Again, you can share the guide with them, any parts of that they need, and all things going well. I'll see you again.
that sounds good. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. And thank you,
you.
Alex, for your time and
My
being here.
pleasure. Really, my pleasure. And I really like what I was seeing. I really do. I like where your heads are going. So let's
Yeah,
have some more fun with that. Okay.
sounds
Take
like
care,
fun.
everybody.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.